Before Chernobyl, before Bhopal, there were countless lesser-known catastrophes, each carrying an invisible weight of sorrow. You've heard the names. You might even have seen the headlines. But beneath the statistics lie voices, families and ordinary workers whose only mistake was showing up for work. Tonight, we step behind the walls of progress, into the factories, mines, rigs, and refineries that powered our modern world, and uncover how the very engines of civilization turned into instruments of mass death. Prepare to witness the resilience and the heartbreak, born from the moments when industry kills. Texas City, 1947. The explosion that shook the sea? It began as an ordinary spring morning on the Texas coast. Dock workers were loading bags of ammonium nitrate fertilizer aboard a French cargo ship called the Grand Camp. No danger signs, no alarms. Fertilizer was common cargo. No one knew that inside those gray sacks slept the energy equivalent of a small nuclear bomb. At 8:12 a.m., smoke began curling from Hold 2. Someone ordered the hatches shut to smother the fire. A fatal misunderstanding. Sealing the hold only concentrated the heat. Moments later, 300 tons of ammonium nitrate detonated. The blast leveled 1,000 buildings, shattered windows 40 kilometers away, and created a 4.1 magnitude shockwave recorded by seismographs as far as Denver. Nearly every ship and port burst into flames. In the nearby Monsanto chemical plant, workers were vaporized at their stations. That evening, rescue teams searching the wreckage found firemen still gripping melted hoses, their bodies fused to metal railings. Yet the town rebuilt. Within months, surviving workers from the same docks returned to their jobs because the economy demanded it. Texas City became a case study in industrial chain reactions and in the human compulsion to return to danger once the smoke clears. Casualties: 581 dead, over 3,500 injured. And among the first victims, nearly the entire volunteer fire department. Aberfan, Wales, 1966. The coal tip that buried a school. If you climb the hills above the small Welsh village of Aberfan today, it looks peaceful, green slopes and birdsong. But in 1966, those hills were built not from soil, but from coal waste. Fine black slurry piled higher every year above the valley, directly above the town's elementary school. Everyone knew it was unstable. Children walked under it every morning. At 9:15 a.m. on Friday, October 21st, heavy rain triggered the inevitable. The waste tip liquefied, turning into a black avalanche. Within seconds, 150,000 tons of sludge thundered down the hill at highway speed. It swallowed houses, cottages, and finally Pantglass Junior School, where classes had just begun. Teachers tried to shield children under desks. Some succeeded. Others never had the chance. An entire generation vanished in less than 2 minutes to 116 children and 28 adults. Outside, parents heard what one policeman later called the sound of a jet engine underground. Then, silence. Rescuers dug with bare hands, but it was too late. The National Coal Board blamed natural conditions. Locals called it by its real name, negligence. From that mountain of waste came a single lesson carved in grief. Profit without caution turns Earth itself into a weapon. Seveso, Italy, 1976. The Invisible Cloud, Northern Italy, in midsummer 1976. Children played by the roadside, while a small chemical plant outside. Milan hummed quietly through its weekend shift. Inside, a safety valve had failed in reactor A101, the one producing trichlorophenol, a chemical intermediate later notorious for dioxin contamination. Pressure rose silently for hours until it vented through a backup pipe, releasing a colorless, odorless cloud drifting toward the town of Seveso. Nobody heard an explosion. Nobody fled. Only days later did residents notice dead birds on rooftops, pets collapsing, the smell of burning plastic. By a week's end, people developed strange rashes, Some children's faces blistered and peeled overnight. Authorities hesitated to tell the truth. The release contained one of the most toxic substances ever manufactured, TCDD dioxin. The contamination zone covered 18 square kilometers. Hundreds were evacuated. Thousands of animals were exterminated to stop contaminated meat from entering the food supply. For months, the ghost town stood empty. Laundry hanging on fences, toys scattered in yards. No one ever died immediately, but sickness lingered for decades. Cancers, birth defects, trauma. The event gave the world a new set of standards for chemical safety, ironically named the Seveso Directive. A law born from poison air. Piper Alpha, 1988 North Sea oil rig explosion. July 6, 1988. Far offshore in the chill North Sea, the oil platform Piper Alpha generated a tenth of Britain's crude output. At 9:45 p.m., a maintenance valve mistakenly left off during a routine pump replacement allowed gas to jet freely into the machinery room. Within seconds, the platform became a fireball. Those who saw it from neighboring rigs described a rising sun where night should be. Men leapt from the deck into burning water 150 feet down, hoping shock would kill before flames did. Moments later, a second gas line ruptured, then a third. The rescue control room disintegrated. When the inferno subsided, only 61 of 226 crew remained alive. Helicopters ferried back men who looked more like statues than survivors, their faces gray with oil ash, eyes blank. British law would later call it the worst offshore disaster in history. Its cause? Human haste. A missing maintenance note. A single unsigned form that read, "Valve temporarily removed." 2 hours later, 167 dead. A nation learned that technology at sea leaves no room for forgetfulness. Bhopal, India, 1984. The night of gas and silence. India's central region of Madhya Pradesh, December 3, 1984. Inside a pesticide factory owned by Union Carbide, water leaked into a tank of methyl isocyanate, a substance that reacts violently with moisture. When the reaction began, gauges stuck, alarms failed, and within minutes, a boiling white cloud rose over the sleeping city of Bhopal. People awoke coughing, choking, clawing at their eyes. Some tried to run. Others never made it out of bed. Those who reached the streets collapsed as the gas seared their lungs and shut down breathing. Children died in the arms of parents who were already blind. The cloud covered 40 square kilometers. It killed 3,200 people that night, and eventually over 20,000 from related illnesses in the years that followed. Union Carbide blamed worker error. Survivors called it murder. Even today, groundwater around Bhopal carries traces of that same invisible killer. It was not just an industrial incident. It was an operation in denial, where corporate statements outlived entire generations of victims. Tianjin, China, 2015. A city that exploded in the age of modern skyscrapers and smartphones. Humanity believed we'd left the past behind. Then Tianjin reminded us otherwise. August 12, 2015, midnight. Dockside warehouses holding ammonium nitrate, the same compound that destroyed Texas City, ignited during a routine container fire. Witnesses off-duty filming the blaze never saw the second explosion coming. A flash so bright satellites recorded it from orbit. The blast produced shockwaves equal to 21 tons of TNT. Skyscraper windows disintegrated 5 kilometers away. 173 people died. More than 300 buildings were flattened in a fraction of a minute. In the aftermath, investigators found thousands of tons of forbidden chemicals stored side by side: cyanide, nitrates, magnesium. Paperwork had been simplified for efficiency. History had just repeated itself. Again, profit had outweighed precaution. Faces had changed, materials had changed, but the equation of death remained constant. Closing reflection. The price of progress, from Texas City to Aberfan, from Seveso to Bhopal and Tianjin. Each tragedy carried a hidden twin: complacency. Every checklist ignored, every shortcut justified, every alarm dismissed became a ghost that still walks the factory floors. Industry builds cities, feeds families, powers nations, but it also tempts pride. When output becomes religion and deadlines replace duty, people become collateral. Yet within the ashes, humanity keeps rising. Firemen run back toward flames. Villagers dig with bleeding hands. Nurses tend to the poisoned knowing the fumes still hover. Because that's also industry, the unrecorded labor of compassion. Progress will never stop. Machines will grow stronger, systems smarter. But memory must not fade. Every worker stepping onto a night shift should inherit not just the paycheck of civilization, but the warnings written in blood and smoke by those who came before.